which I think is really interesting. But as I'm going through this, I want you to remember this is cross-sectional data. This is not, okay, let's have a betrayal event and then follow them later and look at their parenting alliance later on. Look at their marital satisfaction later on. This all happened at the same point in time. So we can't say this causes this causes this. We'd like to think we can, but we can't. So back to this hypothesis about parenting alliance, what we found was that their marital satisfaction did help with the parenting alliance, but also that positive component of forgiveness. So I may really be feeling terrible about you as my relationship partner, but if I can work to a better understanding of this betrayal, it's going to help us as parents. Does that make sense? I can move forward with you as co-parents. And it has implications for parents who are divorced or parents who were never married who live in separate homes. They might have things going on that they need to work through. It's important to be able to work through that because more forgiveness and less unforgiveness does predict a stronger parenting alliance. And what we also find is that you can put marital satisfaction in the middle there. Some of this is due to how we feel about the marriage. If I'm not forgiving you, how I feel about our marriage is going to suffer, and that's going to contribute to a poor parenting alliance. You following? Some of you are looking sleepy. You're looking like my students. Sorry. No. And then we have predicting children's perceptions, and this is really, I think, fascinating here. Of course, I think it's all fascinating. But what we found looking at the wife's forgiveness, predicting children's conflict properties, and husband's forgiveness, predicting children's conflict properties, and then we threw in the other spouse's trust and parenting alliance, because again, we didn't want to use the same reporter's data. We wanted to use the other reporter's data to be more rigorous, because we're talking about properties of the relationship. So let's just look at the other perspective of the relationship and see what we find. And so in both incidents, we found that conflict seemed to account for the link between forgiveness and the children's perceptions, which makes sense. If you're asking children about the conflict properties of their parents, if they've not forgiven, what the kid is going to see is the worst conflict properties. They're not resolving it. It's more intense. Yeah, they're arguing more. And yeah, I'm seeing that. And yeah, it's making me afraid. And so it's because of conflict, really, that we see that relationship. But what's interesting is if the wife is feeling good about the parenting alliance, that seems to help too. So if there's more unforgiveness, we're going to have more intense conflict tactics, our parenting alliance is going to suffer, and the children's perceptions of conflict and threat are going to intensify. They're going to be more negative. So for those of you who like text, following a betrayal, grudge holding, vengefulness, and withdrawal, those are those unforgiveness components. They're associated with less trust, lower marital satisfaction, increased conflict, poor perception of the parenting alliance, and more negative perceptions of the marriage on the part of children. Okay, so unforgiveness is toxic. But positive forgiveness can have benefits. Increases in empathy, understanding, and a release from anger are associated with greater trust and perceptions of a stronger parenting alliance. So if we can take away the negative but also add in some of those positive components, we're really going to help families weather these traumas very well. Threats are everywhere. This is a real website. I'm not endorsing this, and don't you get any ideas. Affairmatch.com. This woman, Cheryl Carlson, has developed this website.
What's the address?
I hear ya. Yeah. So, married personal ads for adults looking for anonymous adventures. So you don't need to place an ad asking if somebody likes pina coladas. You can just go here. Welcome to Affair Match. It's threats are everywhere, and we know this, and we know the high divorce rate. We know the high rates of infidelity. So what do we do about it? Well, here is my plug for my colleagues' books, which are out. This three-stage model that I've been describing has been put into a clinical intervention. It's been transformed into a type of CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's been tested, and it's been shown to be fairly effective in helping couples, based on just a couple of studies though. Based on those studies, it's shown that you can help people work through these events. Whether they stay together on the tail end of it or not, it can really help improve them cognitively, emotionally, behaviorally. They're going to be better at the end of it. So there's a self-help book, and then there's also a book for clinicians, helping couples get past the affair, and it's based on the same model. I didn't want to be too biased, so I brought in some other experts. Oh yeah, speaking of reconciliation, Lewis Smedes wrote, "It takes one person to forgive. It takes two people to be reunited." So forgiveness is really the attribute of a person. It's not necessarily the attribute of a relationship. And to me, that was, as I started this research as a doctoral student, that was very enlightening to me to think about it that way. So some of the other books that are out there, Robert Enright is another expert in this field, and this book came out in 2001, Forgiveness is a Choice. And some other experts, Mike McCullough and Ev Worthington and Stephen Sandage wrote To Forgive is Human. And I think that's funny because I gave a smaller version of this talk a while ago, and I actually ended it with my own quote. You know, to err is human and to forgive is divine. And I wrote, to err is human and to forgive is human too. And I didn't know it was a book title. But to forgive is human, how to put your past in the past. And these are books out there on the shelves for those of you looking for something you could take away from this. There are some resources out there written by experts in the field, people whose work you can trust. So what are you going to take home from this? That forgiveness is a process of gaining understanding and working through. It's not a simple decision. It's not forgive and forget. It's not kiss and make up, right? It's a process. And it's not always a fun process. And sometimes it's a quicker process than others. You know, in a matter of a conversation, you've got it figured out and you can move on. But for more severe traumas, interpersonal traumas, it's really an involved process of restoring your understanding of the world and your partner and yourself, getting your emotions in check and getting your behaviors on the right path. It's not simply forgetting or reconciling. And true forgiveness appears to have benefits for physical health, for mental health, and for child and family well-being. And that is all I had for you today. I finished in time.